Hello, this is COS 586 Information System Assurance. So, we're going to be covering Chapter 1 of our Security Program and Principles book by Sari Green. So, this is the book that we're using. So, I will cover a chapter every week, just about. So, this is the book. You should have access to this on your on Blackboard, so there should be a link to the book. So today we're gonna kind of introduce this topic. I'm supposed to say cover that part. COS. So we'll kind of introduce this topic. I had to fix these slides, so we'll cover significance of policies, role policy play in corporate culture and civil society, the objective of information security related policies, 7 characteristics of successful policies, life cycle of an information security policy. So it's important to have not only the technical aspect of security, but also a policy. So information security is a multi-layer approach. So not just one way to protect your system. So objective of information security is to protect each of us, our economy, our critical infrastructure, and our country from harm. So it's important to protect some of the critical infrastructures that we have. Some places in the news you may see that places I saw maybe 3-4 years ago that water plant in Florida didn't have a good security they were using older operating systems. People could walk up to the system and change the chemical compound. So that can be detrimental to the population. United States Department of Homeland and Security defines critical infrastructure sector as agriculture, food, water, public health, emergency services, government, defense, industrial base, information technology, telecommunication, energy, transportation, banking, finance, chemical industry, and postal shipping. So the service that we attain from these critical infrastructure is the backbone to economy, security, and health. So, these are very, very important. So, and there are also a lot of opportunities and jobs in those fields. So what is the role of policy? So that's something we have to understand. And, as I said, it's not a single layer approach to security. It is a multi-layer approach. So policy is one of them. So the role of policy is to provide direction and structure. Policies are foundation of companies' operation. A society's rule of law without policy would be a state of chaos. So policies have been around for a long time and came into existence as soon as alphabets and written words. So they've been around for a while. And, these are kind of like guidelines and structures to society that we follow. So we've got the United States Constitution. That's a collection of articles and amendments codifying all aspects of American government and citizens' rights. So the founder built into the framework of the documents a process for changing it while still adhering to its fundamentals. Policies need to be dynamic to adjust to the changing environment. And we see that, policies need to be changed as we move forward in time. So it needs to be, but also adhere to the fundamentals, as it says in the Constitution. So we've got, policy today, guiding principles. Corporate cultures can be defined as shared attitudes, value, goals, and practices that characterizes a company, corporation, or institution. So guiding principles set the tone for a corporate culture. So it's built upon the corporations. And the last point, it's the Toyota Motor Company um, has been a leader in promoting its company vision, guiding principle, values, philosophy, and code of conduct. So no matter where the company is around the world, they have the same policies, which kind of defines their corporate culture. So this is where you can find the Toyota principles from toyotaglobal.com/company/Toyota_traditions. So Toyota, some of the quotes that I captured that were kind of interesting. Honor the language and spirit of law of every nation and undertake an open and fair business activities to be a good corporate citizen of the world. So, Toyota is a global company. Even here in the United States, in Georgetown, Kentucky, we have one of the biggest Toyota plants that was founded in 1989, and they still have the original vehicle that rolled off. So if you ever get a chance, I would encourage you to visit, do the Toyota tour. I had gone through it several years ago with the IEEE group during the IEEE Southeastern Conference here in the area. So respect the culture and customs of every nation and contribute to the economic and social development through corporate activities in their respective communities. So they're a great company, and everyone uses Toyota cars just about. There are a lot of them on the road. They're reliable. They're dependable. So their policies kind of guide them to build these very nice vehicles. So not all principles in corporate cultures are good. So these are some examples. So April 24, 2013, garment factory collapsed in Bangladesh. 804 people died and 25 injured. So this was 10 years ago. It was a sad situation. This was due to the corporate executives wanting to, increase their profit margins. So corporate cultures are often classified by how corporations treat their employees and their customers. So you've got, three different kinds of classification: negative, neutral, and positive. So starting with the negative classification, this can be hostile, dangerous, demanding. So your employees are not going to feel safe, nor are they going to feel valued. Then you have the neutral classification. So they're kind of in between in this case. So business does not support or hinder its employees. Customers get what they pay for. Then you have the positive classifications. Strive to create and sustain a welcoming workplace. So customers are valued. Also, employees are valued. They feel great coming to work to such a place. So these get into more of the case studies, understanding policies, comparing companies. If information is breached at a certain company, how are these companies going to handle these situations? Birthday, social security numbers, identifiable information is exposed. So one company may handle it where they let the public know and their employees know. The other company may try to hide the information. So you can see the two. The book goes into more detail about it. So here, company A blames the department managers and so forth. So fires employees in order to avoid legal ramification that may happen. So company B, so you have to notify your customers. So they fire their key employees, so that can't happen. So the company B does it the right way by providing information and contacting their customers. So let's get into more of what is information security policy? So we can see the definition here. Information security policy is a directive that defines how the organization is going to protect its information assets, an information system ensuring compliance with legal and regulatory requirements, and maintain an environment that supports the guiding principles. So the objective of an information security policy and corresponding program is to protect the organization, its employee, its customer, and also vendors and partners from harm resulting from intentional or accidental damage, misuse, or disclosure of information, protect the integrity of the information, and ensure the availability of information systems. So it's a way to protect the organization. And, as I mentioned before, it is a multi-layer approach, so there's not a one size that fits all. So these are kind of the successful policy characteristics, endorsed. So you got the management support relevant, it's applicable to the organization, realistic, it makes sense, attainable, it can accommodate change, attainable, it can accommodate, it can also accommodate change, enforceable. So policy is statutory inclusive, so it includes all relevant parties. So this is kind of the pie diagram of all the policies we kind of talked about: inclusive, endorsed, relevant, realistic, attainable, adaptable. So we'll go through each of them. So leadership is committed to the policy. So they're really a champion. So they're supporting the policies. So then you have the two contrast here, what the CEOs are doing. So everyone has to use strong passwords. That's a policy. Relevant. So it has to support the guiding principles of the organization. Has to be relevant. Here's an example. A policy where the front door must be badge accessible, but not relevant where space is public where customers need access. So it has to be relevant. Realistic, must reflect the reality of the environment in which they will be implemented. So, users writing down their password on a sticky notes and placing them on a monitor. So that's, anyone can walk up and get access to those passwords. So management decision to implement a policy that prohibits employees from writing down the password. It has to be realistic. Passwords change every 90 days. So, some employees are not going to abide by the policy. Their goal is to, simply just get the work done. So attainable, it should be, policy should only require what is possible. So companies set goal that 80% of all purchase order must be sent electronically, encrypted by the end of the year. So, something that has to be attained within a certain period of time. So servers are offline frequently. Employees are going to send the purchase orders by email or by paper. So it has to be, attainable. You can attain it. Adaptable. Business must be open to change in the market and willing to take measured risks. So, businesses are usually slow to change, so it has to be adaptable. So here is an example. A and B are developing an app. A keeps it a secret from all other departments. B involves all the other departments to make sure it meets security guidelines. So company A is going to put their customers at risk, and company B is going to create more of a stable application. So enforceable. So that means administrative, physical, or technical controls can be put in place to support the policy. So here's another example of company A and B is web browsing policy. So A doesn't have any control. B has a web filtering. Company A gets infected with malware. Um, and company B gets infected, but they're able to trace it and isolate that situation to take care of it more quickly. So here it is important to include external policies. So data is global, and there's a lot of third parties that play into place, subcontracting and so forth. So those, especially for a global company, you had to take those into account, international laws as well as cultural norms. So there's government roles in information security. So there's the Grama-Leach-Bliley Act, GLBA. So this modernized the banking industry. So this act permitted banks to engage in broader activities. So it also protects the customer information, which is important. We also have HIPAA. This is, most people have heard of this, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996. So it protects patients' information. So information security policy life cycle, similar to a software life cycle. So you develop, publish, adopt, and review. So like any software, it also has a life cycle. So it may become obsolete towards the end of its life. So developing a policy, you have to include planning, research, vetting, approve, and authorization. So it has to go through this. Then you publish your policy, you communicate, you decimate, and you educate your employees of the policies. So having a policy, if your employees don't know about it, it's not going to be any use. So you also have to implement, monitor, and enforce that policy. Review that policy and see if it needs to be changed or modified in some way, or if we need to completely get rid of that policy. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions or comments. So make sure to read chapter 1. Thank you.